I'm back for a little while for a short one. Doing chores, getting the house ready for a visitation again from my brother in law, my big brother. We're going to have a lot of fun this weekend, play some Hyperborea, run amok. It's going to be a good time. Um, Now, you can see some of you who looked by the name of this that I've mentioned a certain, Jeffrey character. God, I hate that. I really hate that. And yeah, I have some opinions. And actually, it was who you blame is Shadow, because Shadow was the one that was like, I'm waiting for you to talk about that. And it's like, so. And I was like, I already said everything I needed to say. I told everybody, this was a honeypot, blah, 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 like a long time ago. That video may be gone now, but yeah. Uh, One of the biggest problems when it comes to talking about old Jeffrey is that there is this whole cavalcade of idiocy where if you say something somebody doesn't like, what if I move this over and actually slide over? Maybe I can dodge that sunlight. What do you think? You think? Yeah. Okay. It'll go away in a little bit, but yeah, I've said my piece about it, and there is an issue though that I think definitely needs to be talked about, and that would be, how do you discuss Jeffrey Epstein and all the Epstein files without being accused of being anti-Semitic, right? Because I've already seen people being accused of that. And it's like, okay, on the one hand, you want to tell the truth, right? But on the other hand, it seems like there are a lot of people who are asking you to ignore your lying eyes. Don't believe your lying eyes, right? And while I'm not in any way blaming, 99% of, Jews or Israelis or anything like that, that's crazy. I'm not painting with that broad of a brush. Anyone with even the most like basic amount of pattern recognition is going to start, when you go through those files big time, you just can't help but notice some reoccurring things. Um, like the fact that Jeffrey Epstein wrote at length about being a Jewish supremacist. And I get how he was super racist, which is why there were no black women ever brought to the island, because, you know, um, he also never would have treated a Jewish woman that way either, or girl, little kid, really. And that has to do with the fact that Jeffrey Epstein personally believed that non Jewish children were just basically not actually humans, full humans. It's also very obvious that he was Mossad, not freaking Russian or whatever the idiots would have you believe. No, he's Mossad agent, and probably not dead. And he probably worked hand in glove with former administration CIA, whether the actual leader of the administration knew or not. Like, I don't know that Biden actually knew what was going on, but the leader of his CIA probably 100% knew and just never told Biden because didn't trust him, or Biden was too far gone by then. And we already know with the first Trump administration that basically it was Trump versus his own administration. They were keeping secrets and going behind his back nonstop. Now, I don't think, or I'd like to think, that Kash Patel and his CIA guys are actually loyal to him this time around. But at the same time, there are a lot of people in our government, and I don't mean just Jewish people. I mean, there's a lot of people in our government that are actually Israel first, regardless of what their own faith might supposedly be. And you see that, especially with Republicans. This is one of those issues where the Democrats are at least being honest with what they think, I guess. But you see the Republicans like Ted Cruz, who I wonder if Ted Cruz is a Mexican Jew. Could be. Marco Rubio could be a Jewish person from Cuba. You never know. Like Shapiro does not sound like a Semitic name. It sounds Italian, but guess what? So, I mean, at least in my life, that has been a huge stumbling block. It's like you want to look at all of the information available, and you want everyone to be punished for the horrible things they did. But because of this particular shield that they have, um, you will be accused of being a bad no person if you mention any of this. Oh, there's Timmy. Timmy.
Hey,
Hey, Timothy. So that is the issue. So things we know. Well, here's one thing that I didn't know. Epstein somehow managed to buy parts of the cloth that cover the Kaaba in Saudi Arabia and Mecca, and he
yep,
had them cut and turned into carpets, rugs. And it's like, wow. Now, I have no respect for the Kaaba because I know that it's basically just a Saturnine or Baal temple. But
it's
I don't
demonic.
know if that was on Epstein's mind or he just wanted to humiliate, the Arabs' big freaking thing, right?
They just
Because
probably wanted it. Just actually, if anything, he's a Satan worshiper. So
well, he's a Luciferian, but the
yeah,
problem is that a lot of people don't know is that your Kabbalistic or Talmudic Jews are actually just Luciferians. Um, yeah, the Talmud is 100% Luciferian. Now, your normal conservative, and by conservative, I don't mean Republican, but I mean they just follow the Torah. Jewish people, they are not Luciferian. Now, I think they're wrong because they reject Christ,
yep.
but that doesn't mean they worship the devil.
Now,
However, your Hasidic Jews that do nothing all day but sit around and study Talmudism and stuff, those guys are 100% Luciferian. I mean, the bringer of wisdom and light is their God. Another group that's 100% Luciferian and is based off of Talmudism and Kabbalah is Masons, Freemasons. The Freemasons are Luciferian.
yeah,
They say they worship a God who brings wisdom and light and blah, blah, blah. Look into it and you'll see the Freemasons are a bunch of Luciferian people hiding in their lodges and pretending to be something they're not. Now, I should correct one thing with that whole diatribe, though, is that your lower rank Freemasons probably have no idea what they're in.
yeah, they probably don't.
Yeah, they don't know. They think they're in a good old boys club where, you pay your dues, you do your stuff, people help you out, you help them out. You know what I mean? It's just like that kind of, club. You need a job, you go to a Freemason who owns a business. He hooks you up because you're both in the same clique, right? But behind Freemasonry, it's just Luciferianism. And the thing a lot of people don't know or never contemplate is there's a huge difference between Luciferianism and Satanism. It's not the same. Luciferians, they a lot of Luciferians view Lucifer, the light bringer, as the legitimate god of the earth. So they think that by doing what they're doing, they're actually doing the right thing. Whereas, Satanists, if they're Levian Satanists, they're cosplaying as Satanists while just partying, doing a lot of drugs, banging around.
Oh, James, did you notice who wasn't on the on the Epstein list?
Who?
Dick Cheney.
Really?
Really?
Well, probably because if he had been, they'd been afraid he'd shoot him.
Maybe.
They'd been. He might have been there, but you know, friggin' Epstein was like, purge everything that dude has anything to do with,
Maybe.
because he will come back with a shotgun and shoot me in the face.
He'll
No,
somehow
I
be
don't
in a
mean that for
hunting accident
real.
with Dick Cheney.
I'm cracking a joke about the whole
I know. But
thing.
could you just imagine it? I was like, I don't want to get into a hunting accident with Dick Cheney.
Right. I mean, no matter who you are, when Dick Cheney asks if you want to come to the ranch and go hunting, you're like, no. But I mean, even the few times, which everybody's trying to make hay out of this, that Trump is mentioned, it's either nothing at all, having to do
Insubstantial.
with Trump was at a party, or it's been shown to be a complete lie. And the thing I don't understand about people on the left who are like super like, oh, Trump's on that list. If Trump were on that list, do those idiots think that the Biden administration wouldn't have thrown that out there? Like, right, first thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's like, why would you go out of your way to try to throw this guy in prison for 400 years if you knew for a fact he was on this list and had been, doing horrible things on the island with Jeff, right? Uh, it's just so stupid. It's like, do you people not understand that guy has been investigated left, right, and center for 12 years at least, and they have found nothing. And every time his name is mentioned in there, it's proven to be bullshit, because it turns out that half of Washington, D.C. was working with Epstein to try to discredit Trump. Because apparently, according to Epstein's own words, he really hated Trump. Like, Jeffrey Epstein hated Trump's guts, hated him.
Yeah, I think the feelings were
So,
mutual. I don't think Trump liked Epstein either.
well, no, I mean, Trump might be a lot of things. I mean, he might be a philanderer. He might be a lecherous bastard that when he's young used to, cheat on his wife nonstop. He might be all that stuff. Mikey Palmer, what in the hell is up with you, sir? How you doing? I salute you, sir, and I hope you're doing good. What's up, Nerdy Ogre? Yeah, Mike. I shouldn't call him Mikey Palmer. He's a grown ass man, but Mike was one of the badasses at the department I worked at. And I'm not even being like a way. He was one of the badasses. And I think that there were a lot of people who were jealous of him and didn't give him his due because they knew he was better at what we did than 90% of them. But hey, whatever. I hope your family's doing well, Mike. But yeah, right now I'm talking about how difficult it is to actually talk about things that are true without being declared, the next Nick Fuentes or something. And it's like, you know, And I don't get any cover for this, even though I was raised Jewish. You know, it's like, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so when I talk about Judaism versus Talmudism versus, Kabbalah, people who are ignorant, they think that's all one thing. That's not one thing. That's three different things, two of which are connected, though. Talmudism and Kabbalah are connected. And they are 100% heavily influenced by not only discussions and arguments between rabbis, but also a lot of what is it? Babylonian mysticism, you know, because a lot of that whole thing was started when the Jews were still being held in bondage in Babylon. And then when they were freed, thanks to Esther, many of them stayed in Babylon, but a lot of them went back to Judea, and they took all that Babylonian mysticism and stuff with them. And so there is that. But I mean, moving on, it's like, okay, are we supposed to pretend like the last president of Israel wasn't visiting Jeffrey Epstein's New York apartment all the time? Now, Netanyahu, as far as I know, did not. So while a lot of people consider him to be a war criminal, losing your mind with politics, dude, just I wouldn't lose your mind. I would just look at things and figure out what you think is real. Use logic. Mike, you're a really smart man. If you actually look at the evidence, you're going to see. You'll figure it out. I have 100% faith. But so we've got multiple Israeli types hanging out around the place, including one of their presidents. We've got so many people who happen to be members of that particular religion, but here in America, like Dershowitz and all that were part of the whole deal. It's like okay, I repeat myself. It's almost like there are people who are telling you, don't believe your lying eyes. Believe what we tell you about this. Ignore your lying eyes. This is not a multinational setup. It was not members of any particular group involved. It was just a bunch of bad men. Yeah, it was a bunch of bad men, but they all happen to have the same beliefs. This is the same bullshit as happened in yes. This is the same thing though that happened in England with their grooming gangs, where the British government actually made it against the law to point out the fact that they were all Pakistani, for like almost every one of them that were abusing these very young English girls. People literally went to jail for pointing out the undeniable fact that the vast majority of these groups were Pakistani. And it's kind of the same thing with the Epstein files, except no one's going to jail in America, maybe in England, where you're not supposed to point out that the vast majority of the people behind this situation were Israeli. Or yeah, I would call them Israeli, even if they were American, even if they were in our government. In their hearts, they were never Americans. They were always Israeli. And this is the problem. Once again, shown in full freaking 3D that you get when you allow people to hold political offices and to have dual citizenships. Pat Buchanan warned people about this shit back in the 70s, I believe, and the 80s. And another guy who was turned out to be validated nonstop every time he says something, and people are like, "Oh, you're crazy," right? Alex Jones. It turns out he's right. Like all the weird shit he said, like the frogs getting turned gay by chemicals. Well, it turns out that that's actually true. The whole Bohemian Grove bullshit. Well, guess what? Turns out, yeah, that's true. They do all that weird shit at Bohemian Grove. And all of the stuff he said about Epstein and all this stuff. Yep. Once again, the crazy man from Texas, it turns out, is true. And I don't know where his sources are, or maybe he's got a magic 8-ball or a guardian angel that shows up in the middle of the night and just tells him shit. But that guy has been true pretty consistently. Yeah, I was watching Asmongold, Mike, and it's like, there are still people out there who swear up and down that the current president was involved, but like I keep pointing out, they've had so many years to try and figure out if he was or not, that if they could have found even a shred of believable evidence, they would have used it just based on how they bullshitted everything else to try and throw him in prison. Bored with politics, boy. But Nerdy Ogre, who's to blame for this? When the Democrats win, we all go to work, we all do our thing, no one riots or burns shit down, and we all think, well, maybe we'll get them in the next election, whatever, right? But if a Republican wins, the Democrats spend the next 4 years rioting, burning shit down, blatantly lying about shit, trying to kill people. I mean, I think you can safely say the Democrat Party right now, as we speak, is an incredibly violent group of idiots, and they will kill you. And even if they're too cowardly to kill you, they really want you dead.
Yeah. I'd
So
actually even probably say it almost gets to the point where they're an actual domestic terrorist group.
almost, I mean, you could see it like when Charlie Kirk got hit. It was like thousands upon thousands of people on
Celebrating it.
X celebrating the death of a guy who had never actually hurt anybody. He might have said some words people didn't like. So the question to anyone who's relatively fair-minded, do people deserve to be deleted off the face of the earth for saying stuff you disagree with? And the problem is a lot of your leftists would say, yeah, 100%. And yet, if they say something and they get arrested, all of a sudden they start bitching about the First Amendment, right? But they were celebrating somebody being murdered while, utilizing the First Amendment. And yes, Charlie Kirk, what they say he said that would be considered hate speech is he just said that boys can't be girls, girls can't be boys. The trans movement, which it turns out Epstein was helping finance. Isn't that weird? Yeah, saying basic biology is not hate speech. People are going to jail, man. I was watching Asmongold last
finally
night.
people
They
are going to
putting
jail.
Shit tons of people in jail. Lemon or whatever that dude's name is, he's going. And they've already put like 3 judges. The one guy that was talking shit about I'm Antifa and we all need to get our guns and start killing that dude. Guess what? He's going to get about 20 years. They're going to try him as a domestic terrorist. He might end up in Guantanamo if it's even open. But I do agree with you. There for a minute, Nerdy Ogre, I was starting to black pill myself because I'm like, why is no one being arrested? It's like none of this supposed news or accusations matter if no one's going to do anything about it. Well, they're starting to do stuff about it.
So the
The
first
last
time,
riot I saw in Minneapolis, they were standing on the sidewalk blowing their whistles. They were not in the road. They were not approaching ICE because they arrested like 3,000 of those guys in the last couple of months. So these ICE guys, these supposed Antifa dudes, they want to go out there and LARP, but really you're dealing with a group of fat, overweight, unmarried cat women who are addicted to SRIs and various other medications and have anxiety attacks if you look at them too long or commit a microaggression. And these are the same idiots talking about starting a war. It's like, are you kidding? If a war starts, you're not getting your antidepressants, homeboy. And, where are you going? The first time rounds come in, you're just going to curl up in a ball and have an anxiety attack? Yeah, you see how that works for you, right? See, me, I talk shit, even though I'm on certain medications for my well-being. But do you know what happens if I stop taking my medication? I go back into the soldier I used to be. So I'm actually medicated to keep me tamped down. So if they take my meds away and a civil war starts, I know I'm old and fat, but buddy, my mind will be in it. These people, they're so weak. They make videos about how they had to work an extra couple hours on a shift and they're crying about it. Or somebody freaking, misgendered them and they're crying about it. And they think they're going to win a civil war against a bunch of hillbillies. Get the fuck out of here. Nerdy ogre, not going to argue with you because there's a part of me that super agrees with you. However, homie, it's happening.
long-term strategy, though, we take out the pawns right
fade.
now.
Yes,
Not
they're
to
taking
mention
the pawns out.
these pawns are basically only a way to probably actually mask the bigger thing that's happening, and that's the mass deportations.
Well, in chess, you take the pawns out before you take the queen. You got to take the pawns out before you start taking out the actual
Threats.
More important pieces. And if they throw a couple more of these Antifa guys all like really publicly in prison for being idiots, give them 15, 20 years of whack, I think that'll cool down a lot of the issues we're having.
Yeah, it'll tamp down on a lot of the whole riots. It's going to start looking a lot better.
Yeah, because first off, I'm willing to blame Trump too. When Trump was president and like the summer of love was going on,
not much
happened. Was being given the worst advice.
Yep.
Don't do anything, blah, blah, blah. And he let that shit just go on for the rest of his administration, right? And then Biden, he was never going to do anything. They were actively helping the demonstrators. So if I were president, I would be different than Trump because the second this shit started, mother effers would have been going to prison.
Yep.
For real. And I wouldn't care who they are. It'd be like, oh, Dershowitz, we've got you on tape on Epstein's Island, freaking, abusing 12-year-olds. Guess what? Prison. I'd try him in Miami so that when they found him guilty, he could receive the death penalty. Because Florida has the death penalty for that shit. Oh, I'm not arguing with you, nerdy, because I agree with you in essence. That's why I'm not arguing. It's not like I'm saying I'm not going to argue with you.
I didn't see any.
I'm not going to argue with you, bro. I see where you're coming from. I agree in essence. But, so Epstein was financing trans stuff and talking in emails about transing kids as young as 3-year-old. And what's really effed up about it is in the stuff he was saying is about how, let's say, you really want to perform acts on a person with, a penis, right? But you're not attracted to men. Well, what if we create this hybridized thing that looks like the woman you're attracted to, but has? And I know this is all gross as hell, but this is the shit that they're uncovering now. The whole trans thing was like a plot by these group of people to create these weird mixed gender creatures for them to abuse. I mean, it's really kind of, the deeper you dig into it, it's like this is some weird ass shit. And I mean, I have had people get mad at me for talking about things like something a lot of people don't know. If you get accused of pedophilia and you're Jewish and you flee to Israel, they have a non extradition for that. What's up, Crafting Gamer? So you will not be extradited. You will not. And some people will be like, well, okay, why? That's weird. And I will say, well, look in the Talmud where it talks about sex with very young children. They have a whole freaking thing there that talks about it. And I forget which rabbi said, I think it's Ebenezer or whatever in the writings, that if you were to have sex with a 3-year-old, it would be as nothing, because by the time this 3-year-old grows up, they would be fine. That is in there. That's not propaganda. That's like, you know, which is why I'm so grateful that my pops and all of the members of the Jewish faith I was ever around, including the rabbi that did services for me when I was in Iraq and all that, none of them were into the Talmud. None of them. They were all like, we had our big Bible that was the Old Testament
The Torah.
and the Torah and the Tanakh, and that was it. There was no Kabbalism, Talmudism bullshit, right? But what's amazing about that is that that's primarily the main source of wisdom or whatever for the Hasidic Jews and your average Jews. Because when I was Jewish, I actually really believed this. I think my pops believed it. We all thought that the Hasidim were like the real deal ancient hardcore Jews. We all did. But then when you grow up and you actually research them, you find out that they were formed in like, Poland in the 16 and 1700s, that their religion is actually younger than Lutheranism and shit like that. And the whole reason the religion was formed was to keep Jewish people separate from Gentiles, because particular Jewish leaders in that part of Europe were very concerned about how often Jewish and Christian families were intermarrying. So they created this whole hardcore Zionist religion specifically to separate the Jewish people from the Gentiles. And the reasoning being because they 100% believe that Jews are superior to every other race, and that all the other races were placed upon the earth to serve them. That's also in the Talmud, where it says that the purpose of the nations, I'll use nations instead of the word they use, is to serve the Jew while he sets like a fendi, which is like a word for a noble or like that, and watches them work. I mean, these are things I learned about when I was actually a practicing Jew, and I can tell you right now, a huge reason I am not Jewish currently is because I learned these things. I mean, for one thing, yes, guys, I know I do edgy boy shit a lot and I talk a lot of shit, right? But I cannot and simply will not believe that the creator of all things in the universe and humanity would favor one group of humans over every other human he created based on who their grandpa was. To me, I mean, any God that would do that, that's just evil, you know? Uh, and that's why I ended up doing what I did, because we believe, as we're taught by Jesus, that it's not who you are, it's what you do. Like, God doesn't care who you're related to, your blood type, your ethnicity, your skin tone. None of that shit matters. What matters is, are you a good human being? Do you do the best you can? Right? So just that thought right there immediately caused me to start separating from the religion, even though while I was in the religion, I mean, I had great fellowship with a lot of people, and I felt like my pops was really proud of me because I was kind of carrying on, in his footsteps and all that. But I will admit, and I hope you guys don't think I'm a big sissy, but I will admit that uh, I when I found out the way that certain people believed, it really kind of broke my heart a little bit, because I just felt like it was just. Mike, that is an excellent question. I think it's political and elitism more than religion. But I think that there are certain elite organizations on the earth that are doing evil, Luciferian things that hide behind a religion. This is another huge problem whenever you want to discuss anything that any Jewish person has ever done bad, is you will automatically be attacked as, attacking every Jew on the planet instead of the bad actors. You see what I mean? And yeah, if you were able to point out 100 Jewish people who were involved in organ harvesting and various other criminal enterprises, which happened, I think, in New Jersey, a group of Hasidic Jews were literally harvesting and selling organs. This would be about 10 years ago. And you point out that there's a gang of these Jewish people doing this horrible thing. Immediately, some Jewish person over here who has no involvement in anything at all will call you a Yahtzee, say you're anti Semitic, you're only going after them because they're Jews. And it's like, it's like, really? I mean, no, I'm not going after them because they're Jews. I'm going after them because they were murdering people and stealing their organs and selling them. It wouldn't matter if they were whatever. But again, that's a huge problem with the Epstein case. That's, I think, one of the big reasons the Epstein case has been such a kerfluffle is because people are afraid to really get into it. If you start pointing out that Epstein was probably, I say definitely, a Mossad agent, that he talked to Netanyahu, that he talked to all of these very powerful men in Israel, they're in the Israeli government, had all these discussions, some of which are just pure disgusting, you will be attacked for anti-Semitism. That's just a fact. And you could be the most Jewish guy on the planet. You could own a deli. You could wake up every afternoon for your pastrami on marbled rye with deli mustard sandwich, live kosher in the whole 9 yards. Doesn't matter. If you say something about this group, you're screwed. And a big part of it is this weird tribalism where a Jewish guy, like I always like to talk about, Moishe Cohen down the block, the guy who owns the kosher deli, and you swing in there every now and then to grab a sandwich or something. And he's a really nice guy, never a bad word, blah, blah, blah. He is my made up example of what I think a lot of Jewish people are. They're just guys. They were raised Jewish. They've got no beef with anyone. They just want to live their lives, right? But you know what the problem with Moishe Cohen is? The second you talk shit about Epstein, Moishe Cohen takes it as if you're talking shit about him. And it's like, but bro, we grew up in the same neighborhood in Queens, right? Again, this is my imaginary self just putting together a scenario, right? Because I didn't grow up in Queens. But you're sitting here thinking, we grew up in Queens. I mean, I know your whole family. Your family's owned this deli for 3 generations. This has nothing to do with you. But because you are so into this particular identity, and I've noticed Jewish people who don't even keep kosher, never go to synagogue, etc. They'll jump right in, right? And in my opinion, if you don't follow the religion, then you're about as Jewish as a monkey, right? This idea that ethnically you're Jewish, therefore, no, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all, you know? And I think it's a stupid law that got passed in the United States, and it was passed specifically by people who wanted to have a leg up when it comes to hate crime laws and shit like that, which never should exist. I mean, it's amazing. If I run out in the street and punch Timmy, say, Timmy, we're here, and I ran out in the street and just punched him in the head, then me and Timmy are going to have to deal with some legal shit. Probably things will be dropped, though. But if Timmy were a rabbi and I punch him in the head, all of a sudden I'm just screwed. It's like a whole different legal system steps in, right? And that's kind of where we find ourselves. I mean,
don't worry. If you ever decide to punch me in the face, I'll make sure to become a rabbi first.
That's a big problem I have with DeSantis. You know, a lot of people bitch about him being right wing, and I've actually thought a lot of the stuff that he's passed has been really awesome, but he's tried to make it illegal to be critical of Israel and Judaism. Look it up. He's tried to do that, and it's like, of course it ain't going to work because we have, you know, a Bill of Rights, but still, it's like, why? Because you don't offer that kind of protection to any other religion on the planet or any other ethnicity on the planet, just this one ethnicity. And of course, like I said, since they're so tribal about things, even if you catch one of them with their hand in the cookie jar being an evil son of a bitch, a lot of them will jump up to try and defend the
they'll see you, nerdy ogre.
Yeah, nerdy ogre, you have fun with the missus, man. I mean, if this might not even be what you want to talk about, I understand. There's some pretty heavy stuff going on. So, but yes, Mike, it's politics more than religion. But religion, in this case, forms a giant shield that can be used to protect you from being attacked. Because again,
or bludgeon to attack others.
Or bludgeon to attack others. Because as I said, the second you start talking shit and pointing out what's going on, you're an anti-Semite. And a lot of Christians, especially evangelicals here in the South, they are more loyal to Israel and the Jews than they are to Christ himself.
Yeah, no kidding.
You see that especially with Southern Convocation Baptists, the ones that use the Schofield Bible and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not never part of that one.
Yeah, Ted Cruz. The Schofield Bible is the Bible the Southern Baptists use. Ted Cruz claims to be some kind of Protestant, and yet every time he gets on TV and starts running his mouth, he's never talking about Christians. He's always
talking about Jews all the time.
Pro-Israel.
Yeah.
When he went on that interview with Tucker Carlson freaking ate him alive about that. Because Ted Cruz started quoting that whoever blesses Israel will be blessed, and whoever does something bad or whatever to Israel will be cursed. And Tucker Carlson's like, okay, where's that in the Bible? Ted Cruz couldn't show him because it's in the Schofield Bible. And it's not even like, the problem with the Schofield Bible is the commentary on scripture of the Schofield Bible is like twice as long as the actual scripture.
Yep.
So you'll have like one sentence, and then it'll have this massive commentary that means stuff that it doesn't actually mean.
Yeah,
Right.
our church at least used the King James at least.
Well, the Schofield Bible is King James. It's just the Schofield, what do they call it? Like Learning Bible.
Yeah, we didn't have those. We just used the regular King James Bible. We didn't have that. Like,
Well, if you're ever
King
unsure,
thing
just
on
open
that.
it up and look, and you'll see if it's the Schofield or not. It'll be in it.
Yep. Ours is
Uh,
easy. All it had was what was in the King James version of the Bible. There
okay,
was
so if
no
it didn't have a lot
study
of
parts in it.
commentary and stuff, then it was not.
Yep.
Right. So, yeah. And that's another issue because, and not to sound like a paranoid guy, like we're living in they live, but the Schofield Bible was created as a psyop. You know, the guy who created it, who was a scumbag who abandoned his children and went AWOL from the Confederate Army and, you know, went to Switzerland to write his commentary and was helped by another guy. I forget his first name, but his last name is Herzog. And then they took the book to Oxford, where Oxford picked it up and started printing it for them. And they shopped it around, and somehow it got accepted as the Bible of choice with the Southern Baptist thing. It is so like that one knucklehead, some of you might know, Jim Hagee. I think it is Hagee, who's like the leader of the Baptists, and he's always talking about going to Israel and blah blah blah. Uh, that's the Bible he preaches out of. That is the fact, Palmer. If you're the victim, then you can do anything, right? So it's like Andrew Tate did what he did. He went to the Miami nightclub, got him to play the Yay song, and pissed off the governor and all that of Miami Beach. And now their deal is they're trying to force Andrew Tate to take a tour, like a learning tour of their local Holocaust museum. And it's like, how's that going to help Andrew Tate in any way? Like you're going to walk him through there and like be like, oh yeah, lots of people died. You should feel bad and never ever notice anything we ever do wrong. Because if you do, again, you're full of hate and blah blah blah. You know. And what in my opinion is pretty amazing, and again, this is gonna what I'm getting ready to say is a hot take. A lot of people aren't going to like it, right? When the Communist Party, the Bolsheviks, finally overthrew the Tsar, murdered him and his entire family in a basement, rejected the democratic foundation they had promised to set up, got rid of the Mensheviks and all that, just adding a lot of things they did. And then Lenin decided it was time to liquidize, you know, the kulaks, which were just basically farmers who owned their own land, right? Between all of that, the Holodomor, etc., they estimate tens of millions of Christians were specifically targeted and put to death by a Bolshevik party that was somewhere around 80-something% Jewish in leadership, right? They were atheistic Jews, but they still considered themselves Jews. That has always blown my mind. It's like saying, I'm an atheist Catholic. It's like, no, that can't be. That makes no sense, right? But anyway, when are they going to start building museums in the United States to honor the tens of millions of Christians and the thousands of Christian cathedrals, which were very, very ancient, that were actively destroyed by this group, who were, as I said, predominantly Jewish?
You know, if I was in charge, I would make that.
Right. But instead, you have these pro communist assholes trying to argue that the Holodomor never happened. It
Yeah.
was just a famine that happened, and all those people died uh, because of famine, not because it was the actual actions of the communists. But the reality is, yeah, it was a famine because the communists took all the crops, left nothing for the farmers, and then fenced them all in and would shoot any of them that tried to get away and forced them to starve. They were forced into starvation because, and the people who guarded them were NKVD. Do a little research, and all of a sudden you find out that the vast majority of the NKVD were of a certain group, and all of their leadership was of a certain group. And it was their job as the secret police to make sure the people they wanted murdered were murdered. Right? I mean, that was the whole thing. In World War II on the Eastern Front, it was that way, so hardcore, and they were so mean to their own supposed people that Adolf Hitler passed a law where if you captured NKVD agents, you just shot them on the freaking spot. In movies like Enemy at the Gate, the NKVD are the guys that are setting the Maxim machine guns up behind the Russian soldiers and then gunning down any of them that dare try to retreat. How could they do this, you might ask? Easy. They didn't consider the Russian soldiers to be their people. The Russian soldiers were literally just meat bags to be used until they were dead to fight this war. But the people in charge gave no shits about your common Russian. They were not members of that group. They didn't believe in the same God as that group. They barely spoke the same language. I mean, Stalin didn't speak Russian. He spoke Georgian. He could barely speak Russian.
I gotta go for a bit, but I might be back soon.
Okay. So yeah. So this is a little deep dive into a lot of the history, right? But here's the thing that kind of bothers me a little bit and should bother everybody. It's not that people are being forced to go and get re-educated at Holocaust museums necessarily, and that there's no Holodomor museums, or hold on, that is it. That's so weird because as Americans, a lot of us, if not the majority of us, lost relatives in that war, fighting to put an end to this situation. And our reward is to be made to feel ashamed and guilty for 80 years now or so. How's that right? 60 years. How is that right? I mean, if there's any country on the planet that shouldn't have to be constantly guilted about the Holocaust, it's America. I mean, how many thousands of our boys died on that beach? How many thousands of our boys died pushing across Europe till we finally got to some of these camps and started freeing people, right? I mean, and while I don't believe the Germans should be mistreated, I could, I guess, understand more if they're like, look, Germans, you did some bad shit, man. But we didn't do the bad shit. We had nothing to do with it. As a matter of fact, like I said, we sacrificed, I don't know, 100 plus thousands of men to put an end to the bad shit. And then we are guilted over it. Now, back to the Epstein thing. They're going through the list, and I can't help because I do have pattern recognition, but notice that there's a lot of dots that link up. Like Ghislaine Maxwell, Jewish. Her dad, Jewish, worked for the Mossad. Like all of these people. Again, I've mentioned Baruch or whatever, who was the president of Israel for a while. I haven't mentioned this, but in some of the latest emails between Epstein and Baruch or whatever his name is, they were literally trying to figure out what to do with Israel because Israeli families have like one kid, but Orthodox Christians and Muslims have 5, 6 kids at least, right? And they were discussing how worried they are that in a couple of generations, what happens when there are more Christians and Muslims in Israel than Jews. That was it's really wild how much Jeffrey Epstein was involved in Jewish politics, and not Jewish, but Israeli. Because I mean, there are people in Israel who are not Jewish. Like my cousin Stephen was in Tel Aviv for quite a while, and I guess he could have claimed to be Jewish, but honestly, I think he was probably more atheist than anything. I mean, he's a good guy though, but he just wasn't a very religious guy. He's a heroin addict. And the family thought if they sent his ass to Israel, maybe he'd calm down. But guess what? It's really easy to get heroin in Israel. So, I mean, it is a nice idea. Well, that's what we see here in America too. Like, the only people really of European descent in America that are still cranking out massive amounts of kids in general are the Mormons. And now that Orthodox Christianity has crossed the ocean and has become a very fast growing religion in America, especially with young men, the Orthodox. But look at your average atheistic American or even your average Protestant, they have like one kid, maybe. And then we're constantly being bombarded with advertisements telling us not to have any kids. You see two fat losers hanging out, and they're like, oh, I'm so happy I don't have kids because we can go and do whatever we want and eat all the pie we want. And if I need love, I'll just buy a cat. And it's like, okay, who is putting these commercials out? Because this is propaganda. This is the human or the Americans in the United States, and not just white people, just Americans, are being convinced to not have children. And if you do get pregnant, get abortions, especially if you're black. And that's one thing I can say also I've found in my research. Jeffrey Epstein hated black people. Like, he super hated black people. But then again, I can tell you right now, having been around lots of Jewish people, a lot of Jewish people are super racist against black people. They literally teach, I've been told this by a rabbi, that the black people are the descendants of Ham, who was cursed and turned black after he raped his own drunken father, Noah. Now that's some disgusting stuff. It's like, who even thought of that? It doesn't say that in scripture, that he was cursed to be black. But that is a Jewish belief that you run into. Meanwhile, the sons of Japheth went on to become the Europeans. And then the other son went on to become the founder of the Asians. So that's what they believe, that the sons of Ham were turned black and that they were cursed to be the servants and slaves of everyone else because of the transgression. But yeah, it doesn't go into all that detail, not in any normal Bible you read. That's, again, stories. Kind of like you will rarely, if ever, hear anything about Lilith, but man, the stories that float around, I keep distracting myself with but anyway, yeah, everything going on here. And again, I want to reiterate this. If Trump is found to have been a pedophile, I want him to go to prison, 100%. I mean, even more, I'd kind of like him fed feet first into, a wood chipper, Fargo style, right? But because I'm not so loyal to any particular politician that I think they should be allowed to just get away with that kind of shit, right? But if they had anything on him, they would have already dished this shit out years ago. I mean, you're talking about the most investigated human being on the planet in all of history. And they still can't find anything on him other than he may have been unfaithful to his wife. Well, that's between him and his wife. Personally, I think if somebody's unfaithful to their spouse, you should just leave them. But guess what? It's not up to me. Other people can make their own freaking opinions, right? Meanwhile, and see, this is where I agree with Nerdy Ogre too. Arrest these MFers, man. You got evidence, arrest them. What do I think about the Clintons? Why are they not in jail? I mean, I know they're being summoned. They were subpoenaed to show up in front of Congress and try to explain shit. I'm all like, no. There's enough evidence already. Them bastards should be in jail. They should be in jail. Dershowitz should be in jail. Freaking Gates, jail. Like everyone that we have actual evidence on being there. Prince Andrew, well, shit. Trump, if Trump can steal Madero, he can steal Prince Andrew. Jail. You know what I'm saying? The pilot who flew the plane, jail. The Cabana boy who worked on an island and saw all that shit going on, jail. You see what I'm saying? All of them, jail immediately. And like I said, if you try them in Florida, you can give them the death sentence too. So that would be all the sacrifices, the fact that they got people talking about people literally cutting babies up and eating them and shit. I believe it because a lot of these assholes are into theosophy and that crazy Russian bitch that's into spirit cooking and you know all that sort of thing. And that's just again straight up Luciferian bullshit. It's the same kind of Luciferian bullshit you see at Bohemian Grove and all of that. And again, if I had my choice, and I don't care if Trump went there, if you are a politician and or a businessman and you went to Bohemian Grove and took part in all that shit, jail. Sorry, not sorry, really. No, I say sorry, but I'm not sorry. I believe this. These freaking high-level, elite, ultra-rich degenerates and devil worshippers. I have no faith. I have no pity for any of them. Right. The best thing I would say is I'll pray for their souls right before they get executed. But no, they've yeah, I was joking. Of course, we would never want to jump into England. I mean, I'm 100% sure the British have a lot more shit that could stop us than, you know, Venezuela did. What Venezuela have? Some like 30-year-old Russian or Iranian bullshit and some soldiers who, compared to our special operators, were basically lambs led to the slaughter. Britain's, a second-tier country. And that means they got shit. And they know how to use it, and they got well-trained troopers, SAS and etc. And yeah, so could we sweep in there? I don't think so. But it doesn't matter because if we were to really lay out all this evidence to the crown and everything and say, yeah, we're extraditing. We want to extradite Prince Andrew or whatever. I can't believe that the British wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? I mean, the UK is not going to say, no, we know he's a horrible person who abused all these children, but no, we're not going to let him go to jail. I just can't believe that. But Mike, if you look it up, there's this woman, she's kind of got a Russian name. It's like Babu, whatever it is. And she has been running deep in political circles for like decades. And her big thing is spirit cooking and supposedly a lot of stuff involving underage kids and all of this. And you would be amazed at how many movie stars, singers, and politicians have been involved in her bullshit. Lots of them, you know, lots of them. And it's like, see, I don't know. Some of you guys can push back here, but freedom of religion, I don't think it should apply to Luciferianists or Satanists because their religion in itself is harmful. If not to the people who believe it, then to the people they take advantage of. It is a harmful ideology, much like communism, right? And I think if you're dealing with an ideology, whether it's political or religious, that is absolutely harmful to the host body, the United States, then no, they should not be protected. Now, some people argue, well, who gets to make the that choice? And my answer would be like, look, dude, this is an obvious thing. You'd have to be one of them to defend them. You know what I mean? You can't be like, well, you know, they're not hurting anybody, so we have to let them keep doing what they're doing. But well, hold on though. They are hurting people, you know, and so they need to be sent on. And yes, Mobius, if there was anything on the Don, the Democrats will release that shit. It would have been plastered on the side of every building and billboard for the last 5 years. I mean, if they had anything, they wouldn't have bothered going through all that bullshit trying to set him up, all of which has been turned around and bit them in the ass. Oh yeah, COVID. Some people think when Baruch or whatever his name is and Epstein were talking about how to get rid of the Muslim and Orthodox Christians that were, you know, increasing in population in Israel, that COVID might have been an experiment. That the whole idea of the coup was 100% to try to wipe out, you know, population groups. But the PED thing and the child sacrifice thing does not necessarily surprise me because, and the transgenderism thing, now we're going to go way back 6,000 years ago at least, right? 7,000 years ago, there were a lot of major Canaanite gods which were worshipped actually throughout what is modern day Israel to the south, all the way over into Jordan and all the way into Iran and Iraq, right? 3 big ones were Baal, with 2 A's, Moloch, and Lilith or Ishtar or Lilitu, supposedly the daughter of Enu. And so these people were being worshipped like 7,000 years ago, and they were constantly at war with the faithful Hebrew Israelites, you know, who were at that time, you know, serving God. Now, Baal is the god of the high places. He was also known as Huzbal, which is the god of the Kaaba. So Islam, even though they don't know it or not, they have their Allah, but no, Allah is Huzbal, who was worshipped by the Quraysh tribe, I believe, which is the tribe Muhammad come from, and it's Baal. At number 2 on this list is Moloch. Moloch has always been the bronze bull idol that they love to throw child sacrifices into. Huge thing, especially amongst the Canaanites. But then some Jews allowed it to happen too. King Solomon being a huge, you know, he got with this chick and allowed her to build idols to Baal and Moloch. Sometimes they refer to Moloch as like Astarte or something like that, Ashtoreth. And then, of course, the last one, the god of love and war and bloodshed, uh, Lilitu. Her priests used to feminize themselves with silver daggers and then dress themselves up as women and dance around and work in her temples as temple prostitutes. So even the idea of a transgenderist thing dates back at least 6 or 7 thousand years, right? And when I say she was the goddess of love, I don't mean actual love like you have for your wife or whatever. She was literally just the goddess of sex and bloodshed and war. And she's often depicted as a woman with like clawed bird feet, wings, etc. And it's also said that her children like to flitter about and kill pregnant women or infants in their sleep. So this thing that's going on now, basically what I'm telling you is not new. This is not new. This is just the same thing. Like at one point, I forget the name of the king, the great prophet and saint Elijah actually challenged the priests of Baal to this big, basically, hoedown to prove that the God of Elijah was the actual real God and that Baal was a false god, a demon. And Elijah won, obviously. But yeah, and these gods have traveled throughout time. So like Lilith, whatever you want to call her, she went on to become Ishtar. She went on to become Hecate in like the Greek and Roman religion. Um, you know, she just continues to go on. And Baal as well, you know, whether he's known as the god of the high places, whether they call him Saturn, whatever they want to call him, you know, and Moloch as well, you know. I mean, in the old days, they banged drums and played flutes loud so you couldn't hear the baby screaming. In the modern day, you can't hear them screaming because they're being ripped apart inside the womb and then their flesh thrown into incinerators. But at the end of the day, it is the same thing. So, yeah. So that's the thing. The thing is, yes, these deities have always been with us in one form or another, all over the entire world. But they take different names and sometimes different shapes because demons can do that, you know. So then you fast forward to the day. Let me point out an example, right? Jeffrey Epstein's island had that weird square blue and white temple on it, right? It is a cube. They're here. They're just not talking much. Maybe some of them are recording me because they're mad. I don't know. But look at you chatting from freaking what's it? Rumble. Again, the cube is incredibly important because the cube, like the Kaaba, is a symbol of Saturn or Baal. And it's not a coincidence that the rabbi who actually created Hasidism changed his name to Baal Shem Tov, Baal Shem Tov. That's not a coincidence. The guy who created that entire religion changed his name to the name of a demon. So the cube, the six-sided cube, is it represents the hexagonal crown of Saturn, right? Because a cube turned a certain way becomes a hex, right? And it also represents the six-sided star, which was used in witchcraft and alchemy dating back to first or second dynasty Egyptians, 10,000 years plus. So today you see Muslims genuflecting and running around their gigantic black cube and kissing a rock that fell from the sky. Whether it's actually part of Saturn or not, I don't know. And you see Jeffrey Epstein with his blue and white, which are the colors of the nation state of Israel, cube temple. And sometimes you see Hasidic Jews wrap these black cubes around their hand and forehead. To my knowledge, Jesus never did that. Right. And again, it's because the cube, specifically the black cube, represents, this evil demonic deity. Whether you call him Saturn, Satan, Baal, whatever you want to call him, right? And and interesting enough, the whole time I was in the army and I was going to synagogue and stuff, I never saw my rabbi, chaplain, ever put those things on. Never saw it. So, I mean, something to think about, right? There's a lot of stuff going on that represents even more ancient, older stuff. And again, there are people who will hear me talking about this and they will immediately claim I'm just anti-Semitic because they want, by calling me an anti-Semite, they want to make it where no one takes anything I say serious. But here's the thing. Just because someone has flaws, and no, I'm not admitting I'm anti-Semitic. I'm not. I don't know, Mobius. That's a good question. I have 2 YouTube channels too, 2 or 3, but I only ever post on this one. I haven't posted on the others in 10 years. By calling the people who criticize you these names, you're trying to basically make it where no one wants to hear what you have to say. But here's the thing, and I've learned this very recently. Just because you believe some out-of-pocket shit, and a perfect example of this would be Mr. Nick Fuentes. Just because you believe stupid-ass shit overall doesn't mean you can't be right about some things. You see what I mean? Like when Hassan Piker was trying to blame the Charlie Kirk assassination on Israel, Nick Fuentes stepped in and called him an idiot. And it was like, no, it was American leftist scumbags that did that. Israel, because here's the thing, Israel does a lot of bad shit in the world, but by some people wanting to blame them for every bad thing in the world, it actually provides cover. Because then people get incredulous. They're like, oh, yeah, the Israelis did this. They're like, I'm sure the Mossad stole your bike, So even though they might only be doing 50 out of 100 of the evil shit going on, the fact that you have idiots who may or may not be shills accusing them of the 100% makes it where no one believes any of it. Because it's just like, get the F out of here, Every time I turn this thing on, you're accusing them of something, and I'm just don't want to listen to it, How did we go from Jesus to the issue with Israel and all the elitism? Well, the first thing you have to know is Jesus was born to Mary, a Levantine Jew, by the Holy Spirit and by the Father, who does not have an ethnicity. So right there, right? Jesus knew the scripture better than any of the rabbis at the time. And he would, considering, who he was sent by, right? And part of. And Jesus did nothing but criticize these rabbis, these Pharisees, for all their bullshit they were doing. And so they all got together and they decided to murder the Son of God. I know a lot of churches don't want to preach that from Matthew, that yes, the Jews murdered the Son of God and then said, let his blood be on our head and the head of our children. Like the Catholic Church don't like to teach that anymore. The Orthodox Church does, because we never change scripture. Now, Jesus and the apostles tell us, Mike, that the only Israel is the Israel of God. And Jesus Christ is the king of this Israel. Most people have translated that over the last couple thousand years to mean the church of Christ is Israel, not any strip of land anywhere, not any of this stuff. The true Jew or the true Israeli is the Christians who are members of the church and believe in Christ. But like I said, a lot of Protestants don't like that idea, so they've created their own bullshit, right? While Jesus never had an issue with the common man ever, whether he was a Jew, a Samaritan, a Roman, a Greek, he talked to anybody at any time, right? But if you read the scripture, he had a huge problem with the Pharisees in the temple, who he considered to be disrespecting the Father, incredibly disrespecting all of it, right? Thus the tipping tables and whipping animals in the square and freaking out and all that sort of thing. The other thing is that what was I thinking here? Well, I've said that. Yeah, the true Israel is the church. Jesus is the king of Israel. Jesus is the Son of God, but is God, but also is man. Jesus in the Bible tells so many stories where he condemns the elite and the powerful. A great one to read, if you ever read scripture at all, is the wicked vine dressers, where Jesus walks right into the temple with all the Pharisees there, the scribes and priests and the whole nine yards. And he tells them that there was this man once, right? And he made this vineyard where he was growing grapes. And he had to go away for a while. So he hired these vine workers to take care of the vineyard. And the deal was, if you take care of my vineyard, I will share the harvest with you, right? But after a few years, the vine dressers decided they weren't going to share. They're just going to keep it all for themselves, because the man who went far away, they're like, who cares about that guy, right? So the man who went far away, after he had not received any portion of the grape, he sent a servant. And the servant went in and he told these guys, hey, the owner of this vineyard expects you to keep your word. You have to send his part. And they ran him off. So he sent another one, an even more important one. And this guy said basically the same thing. And they beat him up and threw him out of the vineyard right into the mud and disrespected him. So the third one shows up. And again, the third one gets a beating. And this, of course, is me paraphrasing what Christ actually said to these guys. So then the man who was in the distant land, he said, I am going to send my most beloved and only son, right? Because surely these vine dressers, while they may have beat up my other prophets and denied them, well, I said prophet, but servants. But that's the point, is how the Jewish people throughout time when they got powerful and become elitists, they would actually kill the prophets of God, like John the Baptizer. So the son of the man who owns the vineyard goes and they murder him. So the man who owns the vineyard, he comes back and he extracts vengeance upon these guys, righteous punishment. And then he tells everyone he will hire new vine dressers that will be more loyal and keep their word, blah, blah, blah. What Jesus was basically telling the priests in the temple and the scribes is that the Jewish people at that time had failed. They were the wicked vine dressers. And that the Christians who were coming were going to be the new vine dressers, the new covenant. Exactly, he upstaged the head priest, so they had to murder him, right? But then he went even further, and he told Caiaphas, who was the head priest at that time, that their faith was like a whitewashed sepulcher. Now, sepulcher is a burial tomb, a place for dead bodies, right? And he told them in his own, I'm paraphrasing, but in his word, he said, your faith is like a whitewashed sepulcher. On the outside, it looks clean, but on the inside, it is filled with corruption and evil and the bodies and bones of dead men. And oh boy, they got really mad about that. Goodbye, Mobius. Maybe I'll see you back on YouTube. So to answer your questions, Jesus is not anti-Semitic. He's not anti-anyone. Because, like I said, it's not about your ethnicity. It's not about your blood. Any human being on this planet can become part of the kingdom of Israel. All you have to do is join the church and accept Christ and the Father and the Son. And if you don't do that, you will never be part of the kingdom of Israel, and you will only ever be fake Jews, because the real Jews worship God and Jesus, who was sent first to them, and after being rejected, sent his people out to all the nations, right? And that's also a big part of the parable of the vine dressers, how he went to his people first, but when they betrayed him, then he hired vine dressers from other places. Jesus says a lot, especially in Matthew, that's very critical. Oh, okay. Very, very critical of how they were running things, like the idea that they had money changers sitting in the temple of the Father, trading money for sacrifices of animals to supposedly purify them, which they still do. They still do. Judaism still does that, make sacrifices to supposedly purify their sins or whatever, animal sacrifices, even though some people argue about the type of animal. I don't want to get into that. But yeah, after they rejected his words and they did everything they could to screw with him, he let them know what it was. Happy Friday there, Daniel. So yeah, if you're ever wondering what's going on between the modern day nation state of Israel and the Church of Christ, that's it. The modern day state of Israel and the people who claim to be the Israelites have rejected God. Because even though the Holy Trinity and thinking about too much gives me a massive headache, because it's really some metaphysical shit, three there, one, and oh God, I'd tell anybody who really wants to try to understand that, go talk to a priest. And good luck, because it's a mystical thing that humans can't understand, right? But suppose that the Jews of today actually were worshiping the Father. Well, the worst thing you could do is reject his Son. Because if you reject his Son, you reject him. So modern day Judaism and Islam By rejecting the son, they have rejected the father. And until they wake up and pull their heads out of their asses, their chances in the next life are not great. No, I'm not watching the Super Bowl. I won't watch the Olympics. None of that satanic shit. I don't want to see Bad Bunny being a evil bastard. And the last time they did the Olympics, they did a bacchanal and made it all satanic and shit. I got bare shit to do. I could come on here and talk about my favorite game of the world, Hyperborea, or I could talk about this situation with Epstein and how far back it actually goes, which I think I've rambled on quite enough, but as I've told you, it goes back 10,000 plus years, right? This is not new. And a lot of the paperwork they've released in the files, they're talking about Epstein had it up to 25 aliases who were actively helping him, not just Ghislaine Maxwell, like powerful men who were actively helping him do the things he was doing. And in his own words, Epstein was absolutely a Jewish supremacist. And the thing about being a Jewish supremacist is you feel no guilt when you do horrible things to a young non-Jewish woman. Or as, we would refer to them sometimes, shiksa. Shiksa, growing up, I learned that shiksa were for fun, but never for marrying. Right? So, since Jeffrey Epstein didn't consider any of the people that he had on that island abusing to actually be humans, like real humans, why would he care? You know what I mean? Why would he care? When you completely dehumanize an entire group of people, you can do the worst shit to them and feel justified in doing it. You know what I mean? Now, the honeypot parts of it, I mean, that's political. If you can get enough dirt on different politicians like Bill or whoever, then you can definitely pull the levers of power and make sure these people you have all this shit on do what you want them to do. Like if a law comes up about should we send $350 billion to Israel, you will notice almost no one in Congress ever will vote no on that. Why? Because half of them probably are 100% compromised. They've been, like your evangelical right-wing guys probably got videos of themselves having gay sex with a prostitute. And the left-wing guys probably got videos of themselves with underage kids. I mean, so no one wants to go against this organization because it would be political suicide. Like seriously, political suicide is what that would be. And they say, and by they, I mean the burly Texan, who it turns out is always right with his conspiracy theories, or almost always right, Alex Jones, that the whole point of the Bohemian Grove is that they put you in very compromising situations so that they have power over you, so that the cabal of people, and these are not all Israelis or whatever, it's just, the ultra rich, wealthy, powerful type dudes, they all have filth on each other. And because they all have filth on each other, then no one can betray anyone, right? I don't believe he's dead, Mike. I mean, I know that might make me a crazy person, but if you were Epstein and you had Ghislaine and various other people who were co-conspirators with you, there's no way the people that you have all the dirt on would murder you. That would just ensure the dirt would come out, like he would have a dead man switch, obviously. He would have all this dirt laid up, and he would let all these people know the second I die, all this shit's going out. And there would be no way they would ever kill him. So they fake his death. He goes to Israel, where he, can live the rest of his days out, probably still doing the horrible shit he does, because there's been a real uptick of underage girls from Ukraine being trafficked into Israel. And in one missive, Epstein himself said how much Ukraine is his new favorite country. And it's basically because he can, Ukraine is one of the most heavily child trafficked countries on the planet. So he's sitting in Israel importing 14-year-old women, girls from Ukraine, and just having the best time in the world with his friends. And no one can do anything about it. And that is the way Epstein ends. That's the thing. Hopefully one day he'll get old and die and he'll go to hell. Right? But yeah, Israel has always had, not the country necessarily, but the powerful men in Israel. They have a long tradition of importing underage girls from Eastern Europe. And again, if they're members of the Talmudic sect, they can do anything they want with those young girls, because those young girls aren't actually possessing a real soul. So they only exist for the pleasure of the men importing them. I didn't make that up. That's their writing. They said that. Yep. Turkey. Touching on the Ukraine war just a little bit, a lot of people don't know this, but Zelensky himself is ethnically Jewish. I don't know that he has a religion, but ethnically, he would consider himself to be Jewish. But more important than that, the massively wealthy oligarch that has been behind a lot of the stuff the government of Ukraine has done over the last couple of years, 4 or 5 years, is one of these ultra rich Israeli oligarchs, like multi-billionaire kind of guy. And he's kind of calling the shots from the shadows, right? This is why they keep taking conscript Ukrainian men and putting them in positions where they're guaranteed to die. Because these people hate Christians, whether they're atheist or they actually go to synagogue, Talmudic or otherwise. They have a hatred for Christ. They really do. And therefore, they have a hatred for Christians. So Zelensky getting 1 million Ukrainian Orthodox Christians killed with his stupidity, to him, that's a win. They're already advertising, trying to import Africans into the country to take the place of all of the young Slavic Christians they've murdered. This is a real thing. You can look it up. And this is one of the reasons I've been pro-Russia all the way. Russia is a Christian nation and an Orthodox nation. Ukraine is not anymore. The government, at least, is not. Yeah, kind of super rude. If you look at Carl Benjamin's thing, they even have a poster. Of course, it's in Ukrainian, which is just Russian dialect, written in Cyrillic. So if you don't read Cyrillic, you'll have a hard time. But it shows this really dark-skinned guy. I don't know if he's from the Indian subcontinent or sub-Saharan Africa, wherever he's from. And he's like hugging this blonde Ukrainian woman, and she's smiling at him and he's looking at her. And the caption is basically, we need more workers and stuff like that in Ukraine. So pretty much they sent all these men who are stupid, but having been a combat veteran when I was 17, 18, I know what it's like to be stupid and go fight wars. They've sent all these men out here. They've got them killed. And then now they're going to give their widows to these people from completely incompatible cultures. In addition to what, like I said, Ukraine, the number one country when it comes to child trafficking and sex slavery. And look at the people who are all supporting it, especially under the Biden administration. Biden's Secretary of State, who I also believe shares a certain kinship with a certain, group of special people, he literally gave a speech talking about how dangerous Orthodox Christianity was to the world and how it had to be stopped. And I'm sitting here like, as an Orthodox Christian, I'm like, really? Huh. I mean, I'm not saying every person who claims to be Orthodox is a good guy. A lot of them may or may not be, but for some scumbag that is on the list of the Epstein bullshit to say that Orthodox Christianity is their enemy, for the ex-president or prime minister of Israel to be in communication with Epstein complaining about Orthodox Christianity. I mean, again, just a lot of dots clicking over here, but you're not allowed to notice these patterns because, as I said, you become anti-Semitic and therefore crazy, and nothing you say is worth listening to. Yeah, Sargon puts out some good stuff occasionally. I like him. I've watched Sargon since he was a fat little kid playing with a sling on the side of a canal, wherever the hell he was. He was like 17 back then. Now, I think Sargon is too far left for me, but in England, he would be considered freaking basically alt-right. In America, he would be a centrist. You know what I mean? And as we all know, there's nothing worse than a freaking centrist, except maybe a commie. But what's up, Shadow? So, yeah, you can check out Sargon's video, and he gives you the receipts about how the current government of Ukraine is literally trying to lure men from Bangladesh and Chad and all these other countries to Ukraine by pretty much saying they'll give them the widows of the Ukrainian soldiers who died. Writing? Yeah, man, keep writing. And then people wonder why I'm sitting over here with my University of Kentucky hat, proud hillbilly from Kentucky, but I support Russia and honestly think I honestly hope Russia pushes all the way to Kiev and rounds all of these people in that government up and shoots their asses. I know that. I hope people don't consider this to be like calling for violence. It's not calling for violence. It's calling for justice. These people who have caused so many young Christian men to be murdered on both sides, they need to be rounded up, put on trial for war crimes, and then punished appropriately. And I'll tell you what, one thing I wish the Russians would start sending diplomats to Poland and start really working on repairing that relationship, because other than the fact that Russia is predominantly Orthodox Christian and Poland is very predominantly Roman Catholic Christian, yeah, I know they got a bad history, but they're basically almost the same country. You know, they're literally two Slavic brothers who are devoted to Christ. So there, to me, there's no reason Poland and Russia should have all this beef. They need to squash that beef and realize what's actually important. And what's actually important is not allowing a group of international globalist bankers to create a third world shithole right in the middle of Central Europe or Eastern Europe. You know, you get what I'm saying? But that's always the plan. I mean, why do you think? Man, I was listening. I'm going to talk about something that's American for a minute. There's two islands south of India. I don't remember the names. Both islands belonged to the British Empire way back in the day. Wooden sailing ships, you know, hell, Britannia rules the sea, right? Well, one of them, this little cluster of islands, has been used by the United States and Britain as kind of a naval base to refit, rearm, refuel, the Navy, and including nuclear submarines. This place can refit and rearm nuclear submarines for us. England, I think, has two. Who cares? Now, there's a second country further south that also belonged to England. These people were like, well, we want to be independent. England said, fine, we're going to let you go. You can have your island. You can be independent, whatever. This happened decades ago. Well, now the country that England gave the island to and let them be free is suing England to get control of the country where the naval base is, claiming that that land is theirs and the English are a bunch of colonists. And of course, the world, whatever, agreed with this bunch of idiots. And it's like, as Americans who, we love our Navy, we love our Navy, don't touch our boats or else, right? It's like, are we supposed to just turn over one of our most strategic submarine bases because a bunch of savages on a stupid island that was given to them by the English have decided that the other island should be theirs too? And of course, Keir Starmer's like, yeah, we have to decolonize, blah, blah, blah. And our government's like, no, And again, this is why I could never be the president, because I would just take over the other island too. And when they whined about it, I'd be like, sorry, we gave you a shot. You could have been decent human beings, but you decided to ally with China and try to pull some shit. So now you get to live under our rule or, fertilize banana groves, whatever, Yeah, the whole Grand Banks thing. Yeah. I know that Canada has had issues with, I don't know if it were Russia or China, but yeah, fishing boats coming across the Arctic and just snapping up all the fish. But I hope once El Presidente gets full control over Greenland, that'll be the end of that. Yeah, well, okay, Putin says stuff. And he probably believes it too. Like all of the psychiatrists I've ever watched that have watched Putin, they've all been like, the dude does not joke. When he says things, he believes those things. And that's kind of dangerous because Trump will say the wildest shit ever. You never know what Trump's thinking, really, because Trump will roll into a meeting and start talking about Pokemon cards and shit. And you're just like, in a way, he's kind of like that South Park episode where the one lawyer's like, look at a Wookiee, look at a Wookiee. It's like if you're a foreign leader, you have no idea. When Trump says he's coming to visit you, you don't know if it's going to be him showing up and shaking your hand and being lovey-dovey or bringing the whole fucking army. You never know, and it's like, and, it works for him. I try to explain to people, Trump is a businessman from Queens, New York. Do not expect him to act like a Gentile fuckhead from Arkansas or somewhere, because it's not in his nature. Trump's nature is, if you fuck with him, to take you down hard, humiliate you, and put his foot right on your fucking throat. Let the world and know who the boss is. That's Trump's nature. Now, I'm not trying to say New Yorkers are especially tougher than anyone else. As a guy from Eastern Kentucky, I've whipped the shit out of a few people from New York City, my hillbilly ass, when I was younger. But that is kind of an attitude a lot of them have. Like Trump, if you fuck with him, he's going to get even. You already know it. It's going to happen. And this administration, he has surrounded himself by people who, when Papa comes into the office and says he wants to fuck shit up, they're all like, okay, let's make this shit happen. His first administration, he was surrounded by a bunch of assholes that hated him, right? So, yeah, that's why he's so good with the negotiations, because he'll roll in straight threatening to nuke the fuck out of you. Like right off the bat, he'll be like, yeah, I'll nuke them until they're in the Stone Age. But then he shows up and he allows you to convince him not to nuke you, and that maybe some concessions on either side would be pretty good. And then the next thing you know, he gets most of what he wants. You get a couple things, and he's jetting home to, smooch on Melania or something. I mean, in a way, he is a force of chaos, but he's also a genius. Like he always talks about, you ain't got the cards. Trump's got the cards, but you don't know what they are. It could be the worst hand ever, but you don't know. And he always acts like he's got 4 aces and a freaking king. So, yeah. And yes, Putin shouldn't have done that. But again, I'm sure if he sent the right dignitaries and even let them say, look, Putin said things, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure if he went to Poland and said, look, brothers, look around you. Is this what we want? That the Polish would be like, no, this is not what we want. And then they could start acting right. I personally feel like by the time this year, the next comes around, by this time in a year or two, the United States and Russia will have some sort of alliance. Whether it's a trade alliance or whatever it is, it's going to happen. I 100% believes that. Yeah. Well, Trump, the thing with Trump is being that his dad came over here with nothing, made a ton of money, lent Trump money so that he could start a business. And people always say, he's been bankrupt like a billion times. Well, yeah. You know what that means? That means he knows how the fucking system works. He knows that if you put shit in LLCs and spread the wealth around, if shit goes bad, you can declare bankruptcy and still be a billionaire. And like he said on that one debate when, Clinton, Hillary was talking all that shit, Chappelle mentioned this about taxes and shit. Trump, without shame, said, yeah, I hardly pay taxes because I know how the tax code works. And if you wanted it changed, you would, but you won't change it because all the people who donate to you rely on it too, which shut Hillary right the fuck up. Like Chappelle said, he said, for the first time in history, there was a white man standing out front of the White House, pointing and yelling about all the crooked shit that was going on in there and telling you he knows it's crooked because he's in there. And it's like, but for some reason, I think leftist people are just mentally ill. They can't see actual physical evidence. They don't have the ability to discern things to derive a truth because they're so emotionally attached to rich people never spend their own money. They get other people to invest. And if it works out, it's great for everyone. And if it don't work out, well, you're left holding the bag. He's still rich. This is late stage crony capitalism. Personally, I'm a huge fan of capitalism, but the thing that the socialists and communists don't seem to understand is there are many, many forms of capitalism. You can have free market capitalism. You can have a regulated capitalist system. And then you can have this crazy bullshit where it's a small group of people, giving each other hand jobs and making billions of dollars. Our founders never intended our capitalist system to become this. We were always supposed to be a free market economy where the price of goods was always going to be determined by rarity and what people were willing to pay. That stopped a long time ago. But given the choice of any other political system, yes, please, or economic system, I'll take the capitalism over the starvation and the bread lines every day of the week. Again, look at Russia. Not that long ago, these people were waiting in line for toilet paper and potatoes. since they have adopted a semi free market economy, regulated, but where people can work and make money and invest in shit. I mean, they're doing way better. I mean, people aren't starving to death, getting sent to gulags, like if you live in Moscow and you get a decent job, you can actually have an apartment and, buy decent food and, whatever, right? And it all happened just because some guys, starting with Gorbachev, decided, hey, this collectivist bullshit does not work. Even China, Mao, after he caused the death of tens of millions of people, he changed their economic system to a damn practically full-on capitalist system. So China, which can continues to claim to be a communist nation, has a entrepreneurial free market driven system. And but the communists heavily monitor it, and yet assholes can come up with an invention in China or something they stole from the United States, and if they do their shit right, become multimillionaires or even billionaires. That's not something you can do under an actual collectivist communist economic system. Palmer, again, there's a lot of stuff I'm not sure of. There's a lot of stuff I need to see a little bit more evidence for. But there, at the same time, there's a lot of shit that I feel like the evidence is very conclusive, and I need to see agents start throwing MFers in prison. So, like, if our current administration wants to black pill me, all they got to do is like not arrest people. If they want to white pill me and make me think they're the greatest government the United States has ever had, I need to see the Clintons in prison for real and for a long time. I need to see Dershowitz in prison. I'd like to see Bill Gates in prison. Throw that bastard in prison too. He's guilty. We all know he is. There's so many people that we know are guilty. It's like everything lines up. They're guilty. So I want to see these people. I don't care how rich and powerful they think they are. I want to see them punished like they were your typical broke ass meth head in Pikeville, Kentucky. Freaking hammer them. Don't cut them a single break. I don't care if you invented freaking Windows. Go to prison and you're staying there in general population with all the other scumbags. That'll be even better because then the Aryan Brotherhood will just gank the shit out of them because the Aryan Brotherhood really, really hates chomos. So, yeah, the only thing the Aryan Brotherhood hates more than chomos is nothing. The only thing that comes close to the Aryan Brotherhood hating that much is Antifa guys. So like that bald Antifa guy that was trying to get everybody to buy guns and actually fight ICE, when he goes to prison, if he goes to the general population with his Antifa bullshit tattoos and shit, he is going to have a really bad time. He will probably end up being owned by a gang. And when I say owned, I do not mean a part of. I mean owned, where they could pimp him out to other people and shit. Yeah, his whole prison term is going to be really, really bad. Now, I've never been in prison myself, just to jail a lot, no convictions, but I know a lot of people who have been to prison. So take my word for it. And if you don't believe me, go look up, what's his name? Jumpsuit Pablo. He has a whole video talking about he spent like 10 or 15 years in penitentiary, right? He has a whole video talking about what's going to happen when these Antifa idiots end up in general pop. They're going to be effed directly in the A because none of the gangs are going to take them in. None of them. Because all of the gangs in prison, whether it's the, the Black Guerrilla Disciples or whatever, Aryan Brotherhood, whatever it is, they hate Antifa. They hate them. So, yeah. These freaking LARPing cosplayers that think they're going to be revolutionaries, when they go to prison, I sure hate it for them. As my drill sergeant used to say, I sure hate it for them because it's going to be bad. They're going to walk in there. The chomos and these guys, you know what the first thing that happens when you get put in general pop? The guy in the cell that they put you in says, show me your papers. And if you don't, you're already effed. And if you show them your papers and you're some kind of Antifa idiot or a chomo, you're even more effed, if even possible. I mean, you're talking about probably catching an ass whipping that day, if not shanked and, sent to the boneyard. I mean, prison's weird. They have a hierarchy in there and they take that shit serious. You wouldn't think a guy who might have murdered 5 people and he's on death row would really care about any sort of morality, and yet you go in there as a chomo, that dude will take you out and grin when he does it. And when the guards pull him off of your bloody deceased butt, he will admit he did it and laugh about it. It's like, okay. That's a danger with people who have life sentences. It's not like they think they're getting out. Yeah, Dahmer, they put him in General Pop. What was it? Like under a month, he was dead as hell. And it happens to all those kind of guys. You get in there and you got some really jacked up shit. So if they put former President Bill or created Windows Bill or any of these chomos, if any of those dudes actually get into General Pop, they are done. Like for real, completely just done. James L., that's a real thing. I believe that. If you go into the pen and it turns out you're good at tattoo work, no one's messing with you. And you become like a treasure to every game. At that point, you actually can be the guy that people leave alone and start trading you commissary and stuff. Because tattoos are like, they're a really important part of that culture. And if you're the guy who can actually do good tattoos, not like this shitty jailhouse tattoos, but like actual good ones, you're worth your weight in gold to those guys, man. I mean, I don't know. The Aryans will probably try and hit you up and get you to join, but you could probably just get away with it and run your business because you're just way too important to be messed around with by anyone. So that's a thing. It was a huge thing. If you read about the gulags and shit in Russian prisons and shit, if you got put in there and you could do tattoo work, oh my God, you could have anything you wanted. Because a lot of those Russian gangsters, especially back under the Soviet Union, they mark themselves with tattoos so that other inmates know what they do. So, like, if you have a snake with the head leading down, that means you're a thief, and stuff like that. So it's kind of like those Eastern European bros, their tattoos are like their resume. When you see one of those dudes, if you know how to read the tats, you can tell right away, like everything that dude has done in his life, and the things he's willing to do, right? So, yeah, it's so crazy how, like I've got a tattoo on me that if I were ever going to prison, the first thing I'd do is have it removed or covered because I have a shamrock because I used to think I was Irish before I got my DNA test and found out I am 4% Irish. But it turns out the Aryan Brotherhood, they use the 3-leaf shamrock as one of their tags to let everyone know you're with them. And if you have that tattoo on you, but you're not with them, they'll get it off of you and it will be horrible. Like they'll heat up a wire and literally melt that shit off of you. So,
how's my brother doing?
I just gave a 2-hour speech about Epstein shit and how far back it goes and how the dots connect and how people are afraid to actually say what's going on because so many people are afraid of being called anti-Semitic, even though there's nothing anti-Semitic about this.
Yeah, there's nothing anti-Semitic about wanting to put pedos through a wood chipper first.
Well, what I'm saying is so many people involved in the conspiracy are actually Jewish, but pointing that out does not make you anti-Semitic. It just makes you have eyeballs and be able to recognize a pattern.
Yeah, Mike, it's sauce.
Yep, that's Palmer. You remember Palmer, right?
Yeah.
If you don't, I worked with him at the fire department, and also when he was young, he worked at our aunt's restaurant for a while.
Yeah, I remember Mike.
Well, I don't know. My memory sucks, but I remember Mike. When we
Well,
worked together
how
in the wire, Mike and I worked together in the wire department for a few years. His nickname was Anger Management.
I'm turning my camera back off.
because I can't blame him because he worked with so many retards. Like if I had to work on the shift with him with all the retards he had to work with, I'd probably needed to go to anger management too, man.
Yeah.
It's like, and it didn't help that a lot of people in positions of power at the wire department didn't like him. And the reason they didn't like him is the same reason some people at the fire department didn't like him. They knew he knew more than they did.
Yeah,
Mike was a great firefighter. If you wanted a guy to take a door out and advance a hose line into a structure fire, Mike was one of the best in the department. And I'm not just blazing him because he's here. I'm saying this as a completely impartial guy judging another man's work.
I remember when Mike had that boat and those guys stole it and took it out on the lake and froze to death in it overnight.
I will 100%. That's different than what I was talking about. I am willing to sit here 100% in front of all 15 of you guys currently watching and say that Mike was the far superior firefighter to me.
He was a good singer too.
I was on that hose line on a number of structure fires. I worked a number of, mass casualty incidents, the whole 9 yards. But Mike was just way fitter, way more stamina. Just, I remember when we ran stairs up at Bank of America, Mike was like showing off his autistic retard strength. And I was just chugging up the thing being like, what is this guy doing? And like, I'm going up, he's meeting me coming down because,
He used to sing karaoke at the restaurant and he used the song Goodbye Earl, but he had a copy of it called Goodbye Squirrel. He's like, and the squirrel had to die.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed being on the shift with Mike the few times we were. But the reason I never had a problem with Mike is I'm not the kind of guy to be envious of anyone over anything. So if I'm on a shift with somebody and they're really good at kicking ass, I'm taking advantage of that shit. I'm watching it. Maybe I learned something. If they're going to take the fucking hard job and let me come in behind them, I'm okay with that shit. I'm like, yeah, let's do it, brother. I mean, but unfortunately, it's like I said about the fire department. They talk that brotherhood shit until it comes time to promote somebody.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everyone's backbiting each other, being fuckheads. And then the rest of the time, they're trying to make
better. And then we're going to play some more WoW.
The rest of the time, they're trying to F your wife behind your back or some shit.
I'm playing WoW again, bro.
Okay. So I'll tell you right now, having been in a fire department, professional, actual paid fire department.
I'm putting you on fucking. Here's my neighbor and my dog.
Guten Tag. But the brotherhood is fake. There's no real brotherhood. After I got injured on the job, Palmer's one of the few guys in the department who ever kept in touch with me. The rest of them, he even fell off. I haven't seen Bootstrap in so long. I don't even know if he's alive. But like the people who were literally on my shift could give a fuck, except for Miguel and the other engineer.
Every time I talk to Sammy,
I
she
talk to
asks
them
about you.
all the time.
Every
But
time I
like,
when I talk to Sammy, she asks about you.
yeah, she will. But I mean,
She's a married woman with 2 kids and a husband.
yeah. But I mean, every time I'm on the Facebook fire department. Yes, exactly, Mike. I'm on the Facebook thing with our fire department. Every time I see them posting pictures about someone getting promoted, I'm just like, I'm like, how did that fucking slob get promoted? Like that guy's 300 pounds.
You know, I remember Mike because he was
And they've
awesome.
hired a bunch of women that are like 5 foot tall, fat. It's like that bitch can't take a ladder off of a fucking engine. How is she on the job?
Diversity.
But whatever, man. I blow it off. I talk to Miguel. He tells me about some squirrel in his backyard grabbing a club and beating up the other squirrels.
Yeah. Is that what you calling me out here for? No.
So, you know.
No, we're going to play wild again in a little bit.
So, of all the people in my whole department, there's maybe 4 or 5 people who kept in touch, were actually bros, trustworthy. I didn't have to worry about them trying to stick anything in my wife. And the rest of them, F them. And it's amazing because I recently got a call from my sergeant from the platoon I was in when I went to Iraq. And he's hooked me up with like all the numbers of the other dudes from my platoon. And that's been since 90, 91, whenever that Desert Storm was. And I find myself closer to these soldiers that I served alongside and haven't spoken to in 30 years at least than 99% of the people in the fire department. And it is just what I said, because they feed you on that whole brotherhood thing, but in reality, some of the people I worked with would F you over in a second if they thought they would benefit even a little bit. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that, Mobius. Pretty happy. It turns out one of the guys that was in the E4 Mafia when I was in the E4 Mafia, Dex was his name. He ended up retiring 25 years in as a command sergeant major. So when I talk to him, I'm like, I don't even know what to call you anymore. Because you and I used to, like, when we were E4s, we'd get into all the shit together, right? And now you are like this freaking, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, a command sergeant major E9, that's no bullshit right there. That's real deal.
Yeah,
my
that's
platoon
like
was super close, and I'll tell you why, Doc. My first off, infantry unit, so that's different than any other kind of unit in the Army. You know. Secondly, my sergeant, who's 75, and I talk to twice a week now. He really wanted to run the department like a big family, and that's not saying he let us get away with shit. He didn't. And now I've been telling him stuff that we were doing when he was our sergeant, but I couldn't tell him back then. And he's all like, oh, you know, he's like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I never knew that. And I was like, well, we couldn't tell you. You know, you'd have had to do your job and been Article 15s for all of us, right? Because, I mean, he still was the sergeant. As much as we loved the guy and as good of a guy as he was, he's still the freaking E7 in charge of the freaking platoon.
that's
right?
freaking hilarious.
Oh, yeah. I told him about all the women people were sneaking into the barracks and all the crazy shit that was going on. And he's just like, how did I never, like, because, you know, the E4 Mafia is away, you know. If we don't want you to know, you don't know. You know? It's like, but, oh, yeah. Like the one guy I got into a fist fight with in Iraq. He called me. We start talking. But after the fist fight, we become really close. he was just kind of a bully. And when I broke his nose, he realized I wasn't the one to bully. Right. But I was the youngest guy in the platoon because I joined at 17. So I was little and whatever. Right. But he called me, sent me pictures of his wife and his 2 grown ass boys, and just he's living the dream, having a great time. Hufford contacted me. Me and Huff been sending memes and talking shit. Hufford Hungar met because I brought him home a couple of times and we partied down, man.
Hufford's cool as shit.
Yeah, Hufford was so cool. Unfortunately, my barracks mate Eric took his own. He self-deleted, leaving a wife and 2 kids, and no one knows why.
You know who else I liked from your platoon?
Who?
Miller Time.
Oh, you're talking about Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah, his name was like something Miller, like Chris Miller, but we all called him Ken because he looked just like a Barbie Ken doll. Well, except, he actually had junk. And I know that because they sent him to therapy for masturbating too much.
And because he's always running around. He'd get drunk and
hilarious to have around because he was this handsome blonde surfer boy who couldn't keep his hands off his own junk.
He'd get drunk and he'd get naked.
And oh yeah, by the end of his 2nd or 3rd beer, that dude was dropping clothes. Like he wanted to be naked all the time. And I remember he had a tattoo just above his junk that was the Disney as the Wizard's Apprentice. And one of these times you can, Mike. It's super easy. I'm getting ready to kind of end this, even though I'm going to talk to Vic first since he showed up. But I guess my TED Talk is over. And to sum it all up for the too long didn't listen, read, whatever, it's basically like noticing patterns does not make you anti-Semitic.
No.
That's all I want to say. So if you're researching the Epstein files and you start noticing a lot of certain stuff and people involved in it, you're not anti-Semitic. And it doesn't reflect on every Jewish person on the planet that there's some scumbags out there.
I don't care if it would make me anti-Semitic. I'm still going to hate those bastards who molest kids.
Yeah, you weren't here when I gave the speech about, Moishe Cohen owns the deli. He's got nothing to do with this shit. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a mensch, right? So.
Yeah, I just like the big. I hate everybody who's on the Epstein list who mess with little kids. I don't care who they are, what they've done. I don't like them.
But yeah, Palmer, if you ever see me on, and I haven't been on very long, all you got to do is ask for a link. I'll drop a link in. You hit that link, you'll be right on.
And normally I'm on his.
I mean, since you are a bro from back in the day, I mean, obviously you could come on here and we could talk all the shit on the planet,
And I'm on his stream a lot of time. Not all the time.
Not all the time. He actually hates being on stream, but yeah, Palmer, we could tell all these guys who've never been firefighters what it's really like to be a firefighter.
Or to all these guys who've never been to Florida what it's like to be a Floridian.
Well, yeah.
You mean those frozen Floridians?
I'll tell you what, boy, I am convinced my banana tree is probably dead, and that makes me very sad.
You can't kill a banana tree. It's as long as its roots are under the ground, it's there.
I hope, because that banana tree last year, it gave us a freaking 2 foot at least gigantic freaking thing of bananas. And the wife, she let some of them, I ate a bunch of them, but she let some of them get brown and then made
banana bread,
amazing banana nut muffins and banana bread. I mean, by the time we were done, we'd ate like all those bananas. There must have been 100 of them. Now, granted, they were only about, 5 or 6 inches long. But yeah, Mike, I'll talk politics with you if you just want to go. I mean, Maybe you need to get in touch with Miguel, because Miguel wants me to join him on a podcast. And as we all know, our brother Miguel is super far left, Obama, riding with frickin' Karen or whatever her name was and all that. But he wants me to be on the podcast so he can have the alternative view, which, I guess is the far right extremist Christian nationalist view. But I told him, let me know. I'll go on there. I mean,
Yeah, I'll go on with
I
you.
won't argue with Miguel because he's like a brother to me, but
I'll argue.
shut up. You're not invited.
I still
Because
I'll argue with
yourself.
bitch, I'll argue with you. Shut up yourself.
Haas,
no,
just
you're
argue
not
with yourself.
allowed, because see, me and Miguel, we've been in a trailer fire that almost killed us. You ain't. So you're not part of that crew. Sorry.
I was in a real bad semi-truck accident, almost killed me.
Oh, Palmer was there. Palmer, remember when Miguel tripped we were in that trailer trying to put it out, and Miguel tripped and that freaking porcelain knickknack broke and went through his hand? And we had to evac his ass out. And then me and Bootstrap were in there. Bootstrap had the hook trying to pull ceiling, and I was hitting that freaking fire in the ceiling, and it was just eating the water, like just steam. We had to get so low because that steam was cooking us. And then to make things even better, what's his name? Romero ran up with a New York hook and swung it and smacked Bootstrap in the back of the head. Because the visibility was shit. So thank goodness Bootstrap had his helmet and everything on, because if he hadn't had a helmet on and Romero, who was a big man, had smacked him full blast in the back of the head with a New York hook, it'd split his wig and he'd have been done, right?
You've never told Mom about this story.
I tell Mom about the stories where no one almost died.
Yeah.
I don't tell her the stories where shit just goes to shit, and all of a sudden, the horns are blaring and you got to evacuate because they're afraid that the freaking ceiling's getting ready.
We lost him, Haas.
I'll be right back.
Not surprised.
I'll be right back. Yeah, Mike was there, man. We were taking windows out of that place and freaking trying to get control of it, and that fire was basically telling us both to pound sand right up our sandy butts, because everything we threw at it, it was like, nah, not impressed. Because they had a cockloft, which is a firefighter word for a gap between two roofs, and the fire climbed up the back of the house and went into that gap between the two roofs, and it was freaking all roll roof tar bullshit. So when it started running down the length of this place and we didn't know it, oh my God, man.
Oh, and I want to pull up some umbrage with you, bastard. I was a firefighter before you were.
Look, digging trenches in the fucking woods don't count.
Hey, yes, it does.
I'm sorry, but no.
Tell that to all the people who work for the Forestry Service who died fighting fires.
Look, you could grab any retard off the street and tell them to stand in line and dig a trench.
Ooh.
You actually have to be aware of shit to put out a structure fire, especially when it's good and involved when you get there.
You, my good sir, can suck a sexual of
And
riches.
you know why else I don't give a shit about the forestry firefighter idiots? Because you are never going to have to intubate a patient in the back of a fucking bouncing rescue.
Because I'm not working on an ambulance.
Shit, you're trying to bring him back to life. He's already dead. You're in paramedic school, and the medic you're riding with hands you the laryngoscope and says, "Yeah, go ahead and get it." And it's like,
I'm not working in an ambulance, asshole. I'm working in the woods.
Dude, 90% of our calls are medical. So fuck off.
Well, 100% of our calls were fires.
Yeah, dig the ditch, make sure it doesn't jump it, you'll be fine.
Yeah, until you've been out there in the trenches.
I have. Yeah. Remember, I went to the Iron Horse Fire in Daytona. Spent a week there putting out forest fires. Don't tell me. And they lied, too, because they told me that the crew I was on, we were only going to be there as backup to put out structure fires. And then they immediately had us out in the middle of burning palmetto scrub, digging trenches and shit. And I'm just like, yeah, this is not what we do. Assholes. That's
Yeah,
what
it's not
Sammy
good.
almost went at it like fisticuffs with some dude from Winter Park Fire Department because he was talking a bunch of shit about me because I wasn't wearing that aluminum potato cooker they wanted us to wear. And he started talking shit, and Samantha was like, oh no, you shut your effing mouth. You don't talk to one of my boys like that. And the guy's like, what? And she was like, but I think he might have dated her at some point too. There was some beef there. No, I'm going to actually get off of here and go harass my wife, who amazingly, Palmer, I'm still with after all these years. I mean, if you can believe it. How I can only say she has a really good sense of humor and she's very forgiving.
We could say she's almost saint-like, Mike.
Yeah, like all my icons back here, she might need one of her because it's possible she's a saint.
I'm going to cook dinner and then go back over to my neighbor's house where my laptop is and play some more WoW on a European server.
Well, I've been on 2.5 hours, so I am going to make a race car out of my poop.
I'm gonna poop. I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna eat my poop.
Yeah. What was that from?
It was some farm animals on some stupid show.
But seriously, Mike, get in touch with Miguel if you haven't. I mean, he loves when anybody calls him. And maybe you can be a voice on his podcast. Can you imagine the three of us, you, Miguel, and myself on there just talking shit about politics and the fire department and all of that shit?
You need to text me Brian's phone number before he thinks I don't like him.
Glenn?
Nobody likes you, Haas.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hit me up with a PM. If you need Miguel's number, I can sling it at you. I don't know if he was high or hallucinating, but he called the other day to tell me a squirrel in his backyard picked up a stick and was chasing the other squirrels around, like beating their asses with the stick.
That's hilarious.
And I'm sitting here like, I didn't even know squirrels were tool users. Like, what kind of squirrels you got up there in East Orlando, man? What's going on?
They were after his
maybe
nuts.
It's because that whole neighborhood's nothing but Puerto Ricans. It's a Puerto Rican squirrel. So he's running around with a little bat, just mugging the other squirrels, taking their acorns or something. I don't know.
That makes sense.
Everyone, hey, Vic, I'm sorry. I do have to get going. Thank you for dropping in, though. Yeah. And just so you know, I actually posted your DaveCon information on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
So I've been spreading the news about the con that's coming.
Are you coming?
I don't know.
I'm breathing heavy.
Haas, I want his wife's phone number. Haas, I want his wife's phone number. I'm going to call her up and make him
She
go.
said I could if I wanted to.
I know, but I'm going to make you go.
You won't answer your phone.
I have been really eyeballing this rifle. It's called a Jackal whatever, right? And it's basically a high-end American-made Scar S1. But it costs about half as much. Because when you buy anything by Fabrique Nationale, you're paying for the name, you know.
And if you know anything about James, he dreams about scars.
I used to, but then I saw, Instagram. I don't know how to use it, so I don't know how to make posts actually under my name. So I just go to Instagram and I talk to Hungar and Angry Tabletop Nerd, and we send memes back and forth. Because I have no idea how to do anything else on Instagram. So, you know, but then I did go onto a game channel and go into a conversation and post the DaveCon info and stuff like that. But, you know, hopefully they're not a bunch of assholes and they don't end up showing up and ruining DaveCon. But guys, you know I'm a hillbilly, and I'll keep talking as long as you do. So, Vic, we need to get together and hang out. I know you've been driving your truck.
Yeah.
Hungar, you're full of
You
shit.
got my
but
phone
I love
number.
you like a fat man loves cake because you're my favorite brother.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
young Master Gregory is going to be driving me and Mom down to Florida in April.
really,
Yeah, because I don't drive.
so Mike, it was a real thrill seeing you here, and I hope we can get together in the future, the very near future, online here, and just talk whatever kind of shit you want to talk. But I have a wife in the other room and a brother-in-law on his way down from Georgia. So stuff I gotta do.
Yeah, Haas. Yeah. Haas, send me the wife's phone number so I can bug her and make sure she puts his fat ass on a plane.
Well,
He won't answer you.
I'm not that fat. I lost like 80 pounds, Vic. Come on.
You know I'm giving you shit, brother.
She won't answer you, and she
I'm not
don't
saying
hardly.
I'm not fat. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm not fat. I'm just saying I'm not that fat.
She won't answer you, and she hardly answers me.
Stone over 300. Wasn't good. I had the worst sleep apnea. I fucking could barely walk to the damn mailbox.
Ugh.
But
Yeah,
you know, I started eating nothing but spinach and meat, and the next thing you know, just freaking dropped it.
You ever eat spinach to flex on a no-gut nigga?
Yeah, all the time. Because of course my beloved brother cannot eat any kind of greens.
I like spinach.
So when we go out to dinner, I like to order a big Cobb salad or something like that. Just sit across from him enjoying my salad.
I love spinach.
Me too. I can eat it right out of the can like Popeye. I don't even need to heat that shit up. But
I love
anyway,
that.
for real
I love
though, for real this time, Hungar, get off my stream. You're keeping me talking. I need to go.
I love spinach and vegetables.
Shut the fuck up. Go away. I'll call you later, maybe. Or you call me later. And
All
Vic,
right.
I really do enjoy seeing you. I'm sorry that we didn't even hardly get to talk, but
Hey, brother, you got my phone number. You know
I do. I do indeed.
So,
And like I said, I try to cut it at 2 hours, but I went 30 over this time. So, and
well, your wife isn't going to kill you.
no, she's pretty happy with me because I've been being really nice and doing all the chores as soon as she asks me to do them, instead of like procrastinating and you know, whatever. And plus, I've been very charming lately, telling her how beautiful she is and all this. So I should be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just catch you guys later. So peace out.
Hasta la vista, brother.
Hasta la vista, veo con Dios.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. And everyone else who sat through this rant, thanks for stopping in. And I hope what I said made some sense, you know, and I guess that's it. So peace and love. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless and all that. And be nice to your mom and your wife, because they might be the only two women in the rest of your life